to be absolutely massive for us this weekend, and Ross is going to be bringing it. I know he favors one prize archetypes. He's been playing Rapid Strike Malamar for large portions of this season, and has helped him get to this stage. But now he's jumped off the Rapid Strike Malamar hype train and has moved on to Shady Dealing towards Radiant Charizard instead.
Yeah, there's a deck I've wanted to see, so that is absolutely fantastic. And then we've got Mathieu Vidal. I apologize if I mispronounced that. And we're back to Palkia. We knew there was going to be a lot of Palkia this weekend. We've got it here. So Charizard against Palkia. I mean, you know, they're pretty powerhouse Pokemon, but the deck is just longer than the last one. So what that means is we got more one-offs. We've got a one-off Raihan, we've got a one-off Leon, we've got a one-off Training Court, one-off Path to the Peak, we got one cancelling Cologne. There are a lot of options that Matthew's given himself here, and I like decks like that. We've got all those options, although I'm looking at the prizes, 2 Drizzle and an Inteleon and that rare candy. That's not ideal. That's
a little bit awkward for certain. These are the key pieces for both archetypes, actually. Both are relying on the Shady Dealing engine. Both very combo-centric archetypes, so trying to access those prize cards as quickly as possible is going to be huge for both players here. I'm really excited to see this Radiant Charizard deck in action, because Ross really hasn't given himself many other attacking threats at all. I mean, he has Water Energy in here to attack with Inteleon if need be, but really it's a rinse and repeat Zard list.
Yeah, absolutely. It was what we talked about earlier in the day. Some decks, Charizard is there as a nice little endgame attacker. Some decks are built around it. That's what we see. Now, Ross starts off with this Hisuian Heavy Ball immediately, trying to find a basic Pokemon that's hiding in his prizes. Are there any? I know there's a Drizzle in his prizes, but that is, of course, not a basic Pokemon, so that is not going to work. But it's not necessarily about getting a Pokemon. It's about getting information, and you can see Ross there jotting down his prizes, because, oh no, he's shuffling them, so it doesn't matter. You know what your prizes are,
right,
but you do have to shuffle. You don't know exactly where they're going to be, which is a bit sad.
Yeah, Ross is a methodical player, and this really has to be a methodical deck list, because you're cherry-picking 3, 4, 5 cards in certain turns where you're using Scoop Up Net, Inteleon, dealing all over the place, so that you can try and get crazy combinations happening. So really important to know what you don't have access to. Even randomly using like an Evolution Incense on turn 2, knowing that one's prized by like turn 6, really punishes you. So you have to play pretty flawlessly with the deck, but it's certainly in the capacity of Ross here.
Yeah, absolutely. 2 Irida prized is quite interesting, but we do see an energy. Problem is, yeah, Sobble's got that great keep calling attack, but you cannot attack turn 1 going first. And now, are there any real attacking threats here that Matthew could use? I mean, could get 2 energy with a Melanie potentially, but I think the turn 1 KO is unlikely.
Yeah, I don't think it's possible. I think we're pretty safe here, fortunately. The Palkia deck doesn't really get going until you are evolving up. Of course, you can't Melanie to the 1 prize attacking Pokemon. It's only 2 Vs, so no random rare candy shenanigans going on at all. Although we are going to see some prize checking as well from Matthew. We know it's a pretty decent hand when you're discarding a Palkia V with your opening Quick Ball. Looks like the selection is going to be that Radiant Greninja off the bat, and we're going to see some more searching of prize cards. It's always great to see. Keeping your nerve on the stream here at the World Championships. You know you're up against a very experienced player, and you gotta keep to your guns here. Interestingly, Ross may be giving off Palkia vibes right now. Matthew he may not know that he's up against this Radiant Charizard deck, and he may have thought, wow, my opponent's had a really terrible start. I can capitalize on this. And actually, we're going to see a second Palkia come down, the Radiant Greninja, and then a Marnie straight away. It was his only supporter card, because you know when your opponent attach passes, you do not want to Marnie them if you can help it.
No.
It seems like the only option for Mathieu here.
But it is worth noting that obviously, even if Ross had a completely unplayable hand, he can keep calling for more. It's not ideal, it's not necessarily the only thing you want to do, but it means Ross was never going to be out of options, so you still don't want to Marnie your opponent when they just attach an energy pass.
Right, and we're going to see a Capacious Bucket now, a pretty good pickup from the Marnie here, so we can start getting some Radiant Greninja action. Water Energy in the discard pile is exactly the place you want it early on for Palkia to take advantage of, and at the same time you get additional draws. It's the combination we'll be seeing a lot of, and it's just going to start off now. We see Irida as well for next turn. We could even see a keep calling from this side as well, although a second Sobble pickup is another fantastic option. So maybe just holding the Water Energy again for next turn. No, it does look like we're going to go wide here with some keep calling, get the boys out.
Yeah, that's not a bad plan at all. Obviously, every time you evolve the Sobble, you're getting more cards. It is worth noting, of course, that, you know, Mathieu's playing 3 Drizzile and 2 of them are in the prizes. There's only 1 he's actually got access to at the moment. Of course, there's always scoop up net play potential where you can scoop up your Drizzile and then evolve a Sobble that's sitting on the bench. So it's not completely pointless putting them out, and you will get them out your prizes, but it's not like if all 3 of them are in the deck. You've not got quite that same potential for going a little bit nuts.
Like a second Sobble coming down for us. I believe he's already got the Mew as well in hand, so he can at least pay Retreat and Mysterious Tail if he feels that's the best option. But again, it could be a keep calling still. Ross's deck is very reactive. He's not really going to come out swinging with anything. He's just going to set up damage, potentially with some Inteleon throughout the game, but usually it's just Charizard, Charizard, Charizard. So I wouldn't be surprised if we just saw keep calling. This isn't really indicative of like a terrible hand per se, because his deck is always going to try and kick off from then on. The only issue here really is he wasn't able to develop a Manaphy. And I think that's the biggest threat for him, because it's a little bit awkward if you get a couple of your Sobble knocked out early by a Radiant Greninja.
Yeah, that is not ideal. Mew has had bench barrier in the past, but that Mew on Ross's bench does not. So we could see, you know, an early V-Star power onto a Radiant Greninja, taking a double KO and, you know, puts you up 2 prizes, but it also takes a bunch of the Sobble off of Ross's board. And like you've said, you know, it's very important for Ross to have these Sobble, to have that engine to, you know, potentially be dropping extra damage with the Inteleon. No, they're not actually playing any of the Inteleon that drops damage.
No, he just uses Sword and Shield, yeah. He's just trying to attack with them.
Absolutely.
Prep damage. Yeah. So it is all in on the Charizard.
Yeah, it really
There's no other way to put it. Not even using like Rowlet Birdkeeper as a combination we've seen previously, like Hooper and Dark Energy. Any of these early tempo cards, nothing like a Galarian Zapdos V. It is literally just Charizard and Inteleon and nothing else, just cards to help him get there. The Irida straight away getting a Capacious Bucket as well as a Drizzile to hand. And it's going to continue getting some water energy in the discard pile with concealed cards. And will we see the aggressive line where Radiant Greninja takes 2 prizes this early on? Because for me, it seems like the standout play.
Oh, yeah, that's got to be the plan. It's not always easy to get there, but I think this has got to be what you're aiming to do. Just get those 2 cheeky prizes. You've got to draw a couple cards with concealed cards here. And then just, you know, really put Ross on the back foot, because Ross doesn't have much going. And like you've said, it's a slower build-up. You don't need to necessarily get everything right now, but you still need to get something. And here we go. Radiant Greninja goes in the active. There's only really one reason we see that. Here comes the Palkia V-Star. So all we need is to announce that V-Star power. We see a Drizzile coming down first. Now there's at least 2 energy in the discard and an energy in hand. So the attack is coming off. Is there a third in the discard?
Possibly. If not, he could continue to use Capacious Bucket. I like the option of just dancing your Drizziles a little bit here, because you also want to use more one-prize attacking threats.
Yes.
There is 2 Shady Dealing Inteleon in this list, as well as 1 Quick Shooting, and you want to try and capitalize on this. So having Incense is a great option. I would have liked to have seen a couple more Drizzile come out, but of course there's only 1 available thanks to prize cards, so going to have to settle for the Evolution Incense here. To hold for next turn. We will see the immediate V-Star power from Palkia, 3 energy in the discard pile, allowing Mathieu to also get a turn attachment down onto the Palkia. Very effective here. You can get a couple energy in the discard pile as well and remove pivot options from Ross, and even deny easy rare candy attack plays as well. So I like going for both Sobble. Instead, he's going to keep 1 Sobble around and simply take out the Mew from Celebrations as well.
One interesting note here, I'm pretty sure Mathieu actually has Melanie in hand. So there is a potential to just do that again next turn.
It's got to be the Raihan. That's the only way, right? Because Melanie is only for those V Pokemon.
Oh, of course it is. My apologies, yes. So potentially with Raihan in, or even just wait a turn and kind of do it in a couple of turns' time. V-Star power, of course, being once per game. But still, that's a nice option to have that. And if Ross is going to be relying on these smaller Pokemon, if you can get 2 attacks off of Radiant Greninja, that's such a game changer.
It's a big reason to play the Raihan 1 copy, like you say. If you can just safely get out of the active position and save it for later, it can be a huge swing play. We are going to see from Ross a Raihan of his own here, allowing him to recover a water energy that was just taken out of play. And it will go on to the Sobble by the looks of things. You have to imagine that there's going to be some Candy and Inteleon shenanigans in the best case scenario.
Yeah.
Let's see if he has access to it, because we haven't seen any Shady Deals at all from him so far, and he's really having a think about this. I've not been able to scout his hand too well.
No, I mean, Candy and Teleon here would at least get an attack. It looks like we're going for a Drizzile, but then Drizzile could potentially then get, you know, we would, like you say, dancing them. So you get the Drizzile, but then the Drizzile gets you something else, which gets you something else. But no, it's the active that's being evolved, so there will not be an attack in Inteleon this turn.
I don't think there's an avenue for him to attack with the Radiant Charizard either. There possibly still is. Again, there's still pieces to be seen from his hand, as we are going to see a Quick Ball come down, getting rid of a Water Energy. It could be just a Snorlax turn potentially here as well to increase his hand size. He knows he can try and catch up later on because he just commits to one prizes the entire game. So yeah, it looks like Snorlax is going to be the line here. Retreat out of your Drizzile and just go and Gormandize up a fresh hand because he didn't have the pieces just yet to really get going. Once again, I think I would have liked another Drizzile to hit the field this turn because otherwise you again put yourself in a situation where you need to try and hit rare candy plays next turn for the full combination. So personally, I like seeing more Drizziles just evolve up early so that you're safe from gusting plays, but still like this Gormandize option from Ross and get a lot of value. I think he's getting 6 cards from this.
Yeah, that's a fantastic value off of that Snorlax. So just a bit of a holding pattern. Snorlax is having a snooze, drawing some cards. We've got the Inteleon line being built up on the bench. And we're going to see that Radiant Charizard in the next couple of turns. Of course, interesting to note, Radiant Pokemon are limited to one of any kind in your deck. So Mathieu plays a Greninja. That's it. No other Radiant Pokemon of any type. Ross instead goes for Charizard. But again, it is one Radiant Pokemon of any type in your deck. So that does mean that when Charizard gets KO'd, you've got to go and recover it. It's awkward having a deck that revolves around an attacker you're only allowed to play one of.
Right.
But we've got enough recovery cards. They'll be fine.
Well, Ross certainly thinks so. Looks like cross switches are being debated right now. I really like the option of getting rid of the one Drizzile. This is exactly why I would have liked to have evolved up another one. But regardless, Mateo is pouncing, and it's going to be Palkia already in the active position. Now that you've seen the Fire Energy, there's actually reason to commit the Path of the Peak as well. Because, of course, Charizard has a very expensive attack cost. It has an ability, but it is a Radiant Pokemon, so it does carry a rule box.
It does indeed.
And you can shut it down with a Path of the Peak. We're first going to see a Scoop Up Net. Going to get one more deal here. Going to eye up some more options. It's really awkward when this deck doesn't have deals available to it because so many prized Drizzile is really slowing down the options right now. Although we've already seen a pretty stellar turn, gusting up the Drizzile on Ross's bench and already threatening a knockout here and continuing to race very effectively.
Yeah, it's not going too bad at all. We've got the energy, we've got the Palkia, we've got the 2-prize lead. Does look like we're going for a scoop-up net here, so we could be seeing some dancing frogs coming around. And, I mean, it's not nice to have your Drizziles in the prize cards, but at least, you know, when you take KOs, you get them out. And then there's like a bonus on a bonus. It's not perfect, but it's not too bad. So there comes another Sobble coming down. And it does seem like we are just going to see the KO with Palkia. And that's going to put Mathieu up by 3 prizes. But of course, Charizard's attack cost comes down with every prize your opponent takes. So we're getting close to Charizard time?
Oh, it's certainly Charizard time. I think looking at this hand, I think it's very easy for Ross to get there this turn. I think we already have the pivot. There's an Air Balloon. There's a Level Ball. I'm pretty certain he should have an easy route here. He's already holding on to Choice Belt as well, which can help him get to the 280. There's Magma Basement, which is live. There's a Fire Energy in the discard pile quite easily. So I imagine there's a pretty optimal route here. I think even via Irida, he could get it going.
Yeah, absolutely. Or, grab your Magma Basin, get the energy on Radiant Charizard from the discard using that Stadium card. As it stands, Mathieu has taken 3 prizes, which brings Radiant Charizard's attack cost down to a Fire and a Colorless. So you will need some energy acceleration. Raihan would work if Ross can get one. Otherwise, Magma Basin works. Either of those would get that extra energy on. There's a bunch of options. But this is essentially the part of the game. It's hard to get 5 energy on a Radiant Charizard. It's not hard to get 2 energy on a Radiant Charizard. Right. And this is where Ross is going. And actually, looking at Mathieu, do we have much of a response here?
Well, the good news is, like you said, he's got the Raihan option available to him, so he could try and respond with a Radiant Greninja again, or he could try and attack with Inteleon. So the Raihan is a big deal here, allowing Mathieu to really have that 1 prize route when need be. He's been very disciplined at only having 1 2-prizer in play the entire game. And because he's so far ahead in the prize race, this is going to be a great avenue for him to take the win. Looks like Ross chooses not to go for Irida, instead is eyeing up the option to Clara, I think, this turn. It gives him additional deal. It also gives him a turn attachment. And you can simply re-discard the Fire Energy with the Quick Ball that you've just picked up with Shady Deal. So again, it's really good to map out these turns. There's so many different options for Ross, and cherry-picking the right one seems to be Clara in this case. And I have to agree with him. It gives him plays for next turn. He's still got additional deals, and he should be easily having a route to Charizard here.
Yeah, that sounds like it's going to work out really rather nicely. Of course, it is worth noting that Charizard, being a fire Pokemon, is weak to Greninja.
Right.
So that is actually going to mean it's not just taking out 2 weaker bench Pokemon. You can take out the Charizard and the bench Pokemon. So yeah, that does make the Radiant Greninja just so important in this matchup. And it's quite nice to see 2 Radiant Pokemon going head to head.
Yeah, in many ways, I'd like to see Ross use his final Shady Deal to get a Manaphy. I think it's actually really important for him to establish it alongside the Charizard attack this turn. It's one of those things where you spend your deal for simply like a level ball, you get the Manaphy down, but you're then really in danger of not having much on the following turn in terms of your hand. You could easily forgive him for going Shady Dealing for an Incense or a Scoop Up Net for the following turn, something like that. But at the same merits, Raihan isn't core in Palkia. It's one of these sort of 61st, 62nd cards. It's within the sort of main cards you'd expect, but it's not in every single list. So Ross may be gambling this turn that there is no Raihan potentially, but of course we know there is one.
Yeah, we do know there is. I'm just having a quick look back at Xander's deck. Xander, I don't think, actually played Raihan in the deck.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's one of those cards that could come out, and
Ross playing it safe.
I'm seeing the Manaphy with that wonderful artwork. I love that Manaphy.
I really respect the safe play here, because Ross is never going to win if there is a right-hand play coming down. And you have to respect, because the Radiant Greninja remains with 1 energy, that play is very open. But we are going to see the sparks start to fly. There's a Magma Basin. It damages your Charizard, but allows you to attach from the discard pile of Fire Energy. And that's plenty with a turn attachment here that was recovered from the Clara to get our first big swing from Charizard. Choice Belt comes down. We've also got the Air Balloon to retreat the Drizzile, and this is exactly what I want to see. Big up trades from 1 prize Pokemon. It's been Ross's strategy with Rapid Malamar in the past, but now we see the first big KO from Combustion Blast from Ross, starting to mount a comeback.
A basic Pokemon that you get going in 1 turn, that 1-hit KOs a V-Star is a beautiful thing. And I think you absolutely hit the nail on the head. It wasn't that Ross knew that Mathieu had or didn't have a Raihan. It's that it was enough of an option that if it comes out, it was done.
Right.
So you had to prepare for it, whether you know it's coming or not. There is a single energy Greninja. That play is on the board. You had to get the Manaphy out. So Mathieu can still KO the Charizard here, which will then turn the next Charizard into a single energy attacker, which, again, for 250 damage is just absolutely brilliant. But it means that there's not that extra prize being taken. Sure, you've got to give up the Charizard, but you don't have to give up the Charizard and one of the Drizzile or the Mew.
So we see the Evolution Incense, Shady Dealing now. Raihan is going to be certainly one of those options, so we can see an Aqua Bullet play to get a response. Knockout. Looks like we're also eyeing up the Training Court. It's still a bounce to Magma Basin, but by this time you've taken so many prize cards, it's actually not making it more difficult for the Charizard to attack, but it might be something to simply allow a turn attachment from hand, because that might be something that's lacking. Raihan allows you to go ahead and cherry pick another card of your choice out of the deck as well, so you can see how both players are just getting everything they want here turn by turn. Looks like Capacious Bucket is also an option here. You can grab a, looks like Capture Energy. Also guaranteeing that manual attachments without committing a stadium. It opens the option for you to path to the peak instead this turn and make it a little bit more awkward for a Charizard response attack.
Yeah. And here we come with the Drizzile. We've got another Shady Dealing coming in here. Looks like we're eyeing up a level ball, which is always good for getting more of the Sobble and the Drizzile and all out.
Yeah, I think ideally we would have seen like a rare candy play into the quick shooting Inteleon to start putting pressure on the Manaphy or putting pressure on the Mew, these low hit point 1 prize Pokemon to attack on all fronts. But it's not necessarily mandatory, so it's a tricky one to assess here. Looks like it is going to be the Evolution Incense. Now that there's a second Drizzile picked up, you can try and get this going for the following turn.
Yeah, I quite like this play. I like the idea of, because obviously, you know, Manaphy's blocking the bench damage, and Inteleon hits the bench, but you can't, and Radiant Greninja hits the bench, but you can't. But quick shooting is dropping damage counters. It's not dealing damage to the bench, which means it's not blocked by Manaphy. And actually, a lot of the time, what you're doing is dropping damage counters on Manaphy to turn back on your bench hitting. But then again, Ross has made a deck which is literally built to keep recovering Charizard. You got to think, even if you get that Manaphy down, Ross is going to be able to recover it pretty easily.
That's correct, and I think I'd like to see a Palkia V come down onto the board here. It's a little bit scary because you're putting more 2 prize card Pokemon into play for Ross to try and hunt, but I think it's difficult enough to try and recover this Charizard, bounce the stadium, do this, that, and the other. And also it means you're kind of running out of attackers otherwise. You've spent your Raihan now, so there's no way you can power up a backup attacker unless you are using that Melanie, which is only exclusive to Palkia, so I'm a little bit nervous. It's a bit of an all-in play if you don't bench a Palkia here.
Yeah, and at this stage, Ross has got to be thinking that the Radiant Greninja isn't necessarily an option anymore because, you know, like you say, the Raihan's gone, and Raihan's a 61st card, the classic, oh, I might play it, I might not kind of card. There's not going to be a second Raihan. That seems pretty, that's something you can pretty much rely on. So it means, and Ross has been around for a long time. Ross will know all of this. So at this stage, he's thinking, well, hang on a second, if I get rid of that Inteleon, sure, Mathieu can use Melanie, but only on a Palkia, but you can't V-Star the turn you play Palkia.
Right.
And there's probably no way that Greninja... So what is actually Mathieu attacking with next turn when this Inteleon goes down?
I think just off Incense alone, we should easily be seeing Ross come back with another attack here. I think he's already holding on to Magma Basin. We have Shady Deals available. We have Scoop Up Nets available. I know Ross is very adept at picking these things apart because he's been playing Rapid Strike Malamar for so long. He knows how to get the most out of these Inteleons. It often involves going slowly, picking pieces apart, grabbing nets along the way to get as many deals as possible. So I think he's found himself a decent window of opportunity, actually, simply because there was no Palkia coming down this turn, or on the previous turn, I should say.
And there we do see the Inteleon with Shady Dealings. Drizzle lets you grab any trainer card. Inteleon lets you grab any 2 trainer cards, which is absolutely huge there. And we do see the Clara coming down with a Scoop Up Net. Scoop Up Net, of course, will then give you access to, not this turn, it could be a pivot on the Mew, or it could give more Shady Dealings for next turn. So Clara's going to get the Charizard. Scoop Up Net is going to pivot the Mew. Do you have an energy? And a stadium.
Well, the Clara's going to get you there, right? He's already holding on to Magma Basin as well, so he can even turn, attach, retreat the Mew.
There we go then.
So everything is there for him.
Nice.
He's got a real big accumulation of cards here. So I think we've got the guaranteed response attack. Ross does play 3 Magma Basin stadiums, so he can, in many cases, win that stadium war, which is so vital for him. And he's really able to turn, attach, retreat this Mew and keep the Scoop Up Net as an option for a future turn. Scoop Up Nets, again, are really vital resources. I think we're also going to see another Sobble come back even to get even more deals later down the line, potentially. And it's a pretty easy route to the Charizard. We are going to see the Scoop Up Net. Again, he could continue to deal if need be, or just hold everything in hand, as the Basin is going to replace the 1 copy of Path to the Peak, re-enabling the Excited Heart ability of Radiant Charizard. So simply this 1 attachment from the Magma Basin is enough. I personally, now that we've spent the Scoop Up Net, would like to pay retreat on this Mew. Exactly what we go. See here. It's going to be an instant response on the Inteleon. I'm not sure what Mathieu has to attack with on the next turn.
No, so this is what this deck is. It looks terrifying. The first couple of turns, you're giving up prizes, you've got nothing going. You've got Charizard that realistically becomes an easy option after your opponent's taken 3 prizes. But then you get down to this stage of the game, and actually you're just KOing anything your opponent's got from V-Star and under. And, I mean, Mathieu can either put all these Pokemon in, and then Ross has some good options, or not put them in, but then Mathieu has nothing to attack with. And, you know, we see the Inteleon coming out here, and we got, again, Shady Dealings, grabbing any 2 trainer cards. But what's going to make a difference at this stage?
Yeah, I mean, without putting down a 2-prize Pokemon, which comes with its own risks, you're just turn attaching anywhere. You're miles away from attacking. And Ross can hunt either 2-prize Pokemon that you now put into play, or he can hunt down whatever you attach to. It's a really awkward situation for him. So simply not by benching the Palkia, he's put himself in a really risky position. Looks like Roxanne is the cherry pick here from the Shady Dealings, as well as a Tool Scrapper. Tool Scrapper can certainly remove this Air Balloon on the bench Drizzile and make it a little bit more difficult, because we know Ross uses cross switches himself.
Yes.
So moving in and out of the Charizard may be a little bit more awkward with the Scrapper pickup. So I do like this as a choice. The Palkia now has to come down. It feels a little bit late for me, especially because there's only the Capture energy in hand. So I think you're committing Capture to the Inteleon this turn. You could also still capture onto the Radiant Greninja, but it feels like a massive risk. We're actually going to see no attachment whatsoever. There is the Training Court in play, so we can see what comes after this Roxanne instead.
Yeah, so the energy should be all right in that regard, but it's the attacker that worries me. I don't see what Matthew's attacking with here. Like you say, had we got the Palkia last turn, yes, that absolutely comes with risks, but then this turn you would have a Palkia V-Star ready to attack, KO the Charizard, and kind of got to hope that it lasts a turn. Hopefully you've got some kind of disruption to play, because it's a prize race at this stage, and the problem is that although Ross is behind on the prize race, he's not putting down a 2-prize Pokemon. Matthew's deck is not built to trade single-prize Pokemon like Ross's is. So then you've got to play the 2-prize Pokemon, but then Ross can jump ahead. So it's, do you try and stop that happening? Or do you just kind of worry that you don't have enough attackers?
Yeah, it's an awkward one. I actually would have liked to have kept the Radiant Greninja on the bench and protected it, attach the Radiant Greninja this turn, and then leave the Palkia just sort of on its own and leave maybe a Sobble or an Inteleon in the active position, because then there was the backdoor option to take your last 2 prizes by using a Boss's Orders and a Canceling Clone on the Manaphy and take 2 1-prize knockouts. Or you could Melanie attach to your Palkia and at least response on this Charizard. Now you're hoping that the Roxanne makes it difficult for Ross to get a cross-switcher play, because of course there is the downside of Combustion Blast in that you're not able to use it again on the next turn. So Ross is going to have to move this Charizard in and out a little bit. But I think with an Incense, that shouldn't be too tricky for him.
No, and this is the Inteleon engine. The whole point of it is I'm going to be searching, by the time we get to this stage of the game, I'm hopefully searching 2 trainers of any description every turn, because I'm going to need the combo. If my Charizard doesn't get KO'd, then I need to get it in and out of the active. I need to make sure I've got, if it does get KO'd, I need to get my Charizard back, and I need to get an energy. I may well need to get a choice belt on there as well. There's a lot of stuff going on. We've got a cross switcher and a scoop up net, and scoop up net will of course allow that Sobble to become an Inteleon, so that could potentially be the second half of it.
I think we're there, yeah. I think there's already a cross switcher in hand for Ross.
Oh, that would help.
Yeah, it certainly helps him get there. There's also the option to just Training Court back energy and retreat if you would prefer, so you can just cross switcher, use your Mew and pay retreat on it once again if you prefer that to using your scoop up net this turn. We still haven't seen a supporter from Ross as well, so there's even more options available to him this turn. I think he's eyeing up the Palkia. It means he doesn't need a choice belt later on, and he has a pretty easy route here. Going to go into the Inteleon, which probably indicates we are going to see a scoop up net. I still wouldn't mind going into the Mew, because you could still Training Court, pay retreat, but possibly he has the option of attaching to his Drizzile that he'll evolve this turn, and then you have the option to Inteleon close out the game on the next turn.
Yeah, that is always nice. Give yourself as many options as possible. I do like this one. Give yourself multiple attackers. It's what Matthew's been missing in the late game. There's not been options, and the options he's ended up with have not been good options. It's been, benching that Palkia, and like you say, as soon as it came down, boom, cross-switcher, KO on the Palkia. It's not good, but it was the best play available, because there's no other single-prize Pokemon. The only other option was essentially setting up for the future attackers, but nothing feels good about Matthew's options here.
It's a real shame that the Raihan was spent on the Inteleon and not saved for moments like this, where you have that closing late game situation, and also just having to concede an entire turn to Ross has allowed him to get back into this prize race. And it seems like Ross is just eyeing up his options to make sure he's as safe as possible in a late game scenario. He's already overcome 1 Roxanne. There's also a Training Court to help him out here. Turn attaching to the Drizzile is exactly what I want to see, because he's going to take this 2 prizes, just go down to 1, and it can give him an easy route for some of the other 1-prize Pokemon on the bench here. And it looks like it's just a concession straight away here. No option to attack with at all. The only energy acceleration at that point was Melanie, not usable on any of the Pokemon in play. And it meant that Ross was able to cruise to a victory there. I think there maybe have been a couple things gone differently. It could have been pretty awkward for Ross, because we saw the Palkia deck come out the blocks very quickly, and we saw that there was just a bit of a stumbling block in the middle stages, possibly because there were so many Drizzile prized, possibly just because we could have seen a Palkia come down earlier, attaching in different ways and relying on other things. By committing yourself to a Melanie later down the line, it means you're not able to Roxanne. So I can see the ups and downs of it, but It was actually a pretty close game. What I love to see, though, is Ross's deck in action. And you can see he's taking his time, but, man, he's playing this deck perfectly. He's setting himself up not just for the turn itself, but for the following turns as well. And that's super important for a combo deck like this one.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Ross, a nice little fact is maybe the only player, maybe one of the, but Ross has played at every Worlds.
Right.
It takes something truly special to be at every Worlds. You know, since the first real Worlds in 2004, Ross has been at all of them. It really, we are talking about just one of the best players. 2 finals appearances, not seen a win. We had a 2005 finals appearance, a 2011 finals appearance. So Ross is one of the best and most storied players we've seen in the history of the game, and that's why we see this level of play. It is absolutely phenomenal. But Mathieu's not out of this. I think there is a question of at what point did it become obvious it was Charizard? Probably when you see that first fire energy.
You have to assume that, I would think, especially because it's Ross. You know, that actually makes a big difference. You think, even after seeing the attachment onto the Sobble, you can't. You think it's Palkia in the first instance, sure, but then you see that fire energy and you think, wait a minute, this is Ross Cawthon we're talking about here, a guy who can play pretty much anything to a high standard. So I think you expected the Radiant Charizard. Unfortunately, there's nothing like a tool jammer in the list to try and make your Palkia a little bit out of range. So the Palkias will get one-hit KO'd if Ross can piece all the pieces together, I should say, and get the Choice Belt, get the Basin. There's Twin Energy, which wasn't even shown in that first game as well, so there's even more reach that hasn't been extended yet from Ross. So there's even more combos out there that could be pitfalls for this game too.
Absolutely. So there's nothing huge in the prizes. Manaphy is prized for Mathieu, but that's not terribly important. So nothing too bad. A Sobble and a Choice Bout for Ross and a Cross Switcher, but these are cards that you can pick up throughout the game and get any momentum back.
Not much going on. A one-action turn bench Palkia pass means it goes straight over to Ross, who is once again kicking off with his Hisuian Heavy Ball. It saves everyone some time here, where you get to just check your prizes immediately and not have the stress of looking through every single card in your 60. Ross has a notepad off to the side, so he's just going to jot down what are in those prize cards, even if he has no valid target here that he wants to go for. I think it was the Manaphy, but I don't think he really cares too much to grab it. So yeah, it seems pretty okay here. Oh, it's a Sobble. Okay, that's a big upgrade.
Yeah, Sobble's good.
Throw the Hisuian Heavy Ball back into those prize cards, then shuffle it up for a later date. And we know that Ross loves to go wide. With his Inteleon engine, he could once again look to keep calling this turn. Other options include trying to grab Gormandai Snorlax and use that, as we saw he did in that first game, very effectively. So already, second Sobble down. It's a decent start for him. Let's see if he has any supporters to back this up.
Yeah, and of course, the Hisuian Heavy Ball, extremely important in a deck where you can only play one of your main attacker. Because if it's prize, that's kind of your deck gone. So Hisuian Heavy Ball becomes quite important. So we do see Sobble coming down with an energy, and it is just going to be that keep calling. Going second, keep calling, and then go and get... We're going to see the full force Sobble. Now there's none left in the prizes. Yes, yeah, got to be. Because we've seen the engine. The engine is, let's go Shady Dealings. So more Sobble, more Shady Dealings.
And even though there wasn't much happening turn one for Mathieu, there is burst potential, as we know. Missing your turn attachment, not the end of the world with Palkia. You can still find a way to get there. His hand isn't fantastic, though, so let's see if the top deck can help him out much. Scoop Up Net isn't great. We do have Shady Dealing, but I'm not sure if he can do much from it. He simply passes.
Oh, no, this is not good. I mean, that's an obvious statement, but it's still not good. If you've got 2 basic Pokemon, no energy, no supporters, nothing going on, and what you're basically doing here is saying, hey, Ross, you know your slower, more methodical deck takes a few turns to get going. Have a few extra turns to get it going. That's not what you want to do.
I'm really surprised there was no Shady Dealing there. I feel like that's certainly a play you'd look for.
Shady Dealing.
Just to get some Iridas rolling and get some backup Pokemon into play. Kind of surprising that there's 2 Drizzle just sat in the hand, not doing much, but Ross isn't complaining. I mean, I know he's a reactive deck, but even building this board state is massive for him, as we see the first Drizzle grabbing Irida, and we're going to see Tempo coming in. We're going to see Rare Candy into Inteleon.
Nice.
Ross can turn the Tempo on a dime. He's going to get 2 additional cards here from his Inteleon Shady Deal. Certainly Energy Search is going to be one of those options, I would imagine. He does play 3 copies of them, I believe, so he can cherry pick between the 2 fire and 2 water energy he plays. It's an embarrassingly low amount of energy.
It really is.
He has great access to them thanks to E-Search. And he's also eyeing up Level Ball as well for potentially even more deals here.
Yeah, 5 energy, 3 energy search is a weird line.
It's bizarre.
But when you're generally only using 1 or 2 energy at a time and you've got the energy acceleration options, it actually works quite nicely. There might only be 5 energy, but 2 of them are on that Inteleon, and we're actually going to see, I mean, not just a KO on the Sobble, but you just said about the Drizzile and the potential Shady Dealings. That's not a potential play next turn. And when we've got 15 minutes left in the game, Ross is up 1-0, and we've got the board state we're looking at here, it is going to take a lot for Mathieu to come back from this.
Yeah, and he's even been able to defend himself from random Radiant Greninja burst potential as well, respecting the Palkia deck and how aggressive it can be, developing the early mana phase. So it's as good as it gets for Ross. The turn 2 KO, a little bit of peppered up damage on the Palkia as well. And we see a canceling clone. That's not doing a whole lot.
No, that is it's not what Ross is really expecting to do. It's an option in the deck, and obviously it's something, you know, when we see a game like this, that becomes the option. But this is not your primary goal, and we see another pass. So we've got 2 Palkia on the field, no energy, nothing else. I mean, there's a Sobble in the discard that got KO'd. It's about as bad a start as you can get while not having lost the game.
Yeah, when the wait-and-see deck is racing ahead, you know you're in a bad spot, right? We're going to see a Shady Deal as well here. Ross continuing to churn through the deck. Another Irida. It's a fantastic card to take advantage of. We've seen it so much in Palkia, and once again, the Inteleon engine can springboard so well off of this. I'd love to just see more attachments come into play, get other potential Aqua Bullets lined up. Even just getting energy on the likes of Mew as pivot options can be fantastic for Ross. I think the only concern is, like, not overplay all your Inteleons. You don't want to go crazy with your nets and your deals too much, because, you know, there could still be a point where the opponent is coming back into the game and things get a little bit dicier, and you still need to have that springboard option to deal a ton of times. So simply just thinning here and there, but keeping a huge amount of outs for Roxanne's and Marnie's are still going to be the law of the land, I think.
Oh, absolutely. Make sure that your opponent isn't going to be able to put you in an unassailable position. Make sure that you've got those pieces for the Charizard when it becomes relevant. I mean, Charizard's not even an issue at this stage.
Right.
You don't need Charizard. You're not even thinking about it. This is Inteleon's party right now. But when Mathieu gets a little bit further ahead, that's when the Charizard comes out, and that's when these extra Shady Dealings are going to be there to get him out. And honestly, like, at what point does Ross just go, I'm just going to say Aqua Bullet a few times in a row?
Yeah, I mean, he's certainly going to do it this turn, and his hand is crazy, I think. He's holding on to Scoop Up Net, he's holding on to double Cross Switcher. He can turn attach anywhere he wants. He can even establish Air Balloon proactively if he wants to, or just hold it into hand so he's not going to get slowed down in any way, shape, or form. So, I mean, yeah, he's got everything he wants. He's not under any threat, simply because passing isn't a great strat.
Yeah, and we see the attachment onto the Drizzile here, so there's a potential another attacker coming in later on. Oh, wait, no, because he only actually plays 2 Inteleon, but we're going to see the Scoop Up there. So not only do you get a second Inteleon with which to attack, you get the extra dealings.
Yeah, Ross knows exactly how to play the deck, as you can already see, finessing it perfectly. He's going to re-establish a Sobble, maybe just holding on to these deals, and can launch an attack here pretty comfortably, I think.
This is just... I mean, Mathieu's got a turn or 2 to really draw out of this. That Palkia is going down next turn, I believe. So that's going to be enough to get the KO there. And what have we got?
Yeah, Ross is just going to make sure the dice is correct. Very nice, kind thing to do there to make sure everything is above the board. But the top deck, it's a Palkia V-Star, but there's no water energy in sight. There's nothing he can really do here.
There's a Melanie in hand, but Melanie only works if you've got a... You know, you can't just draw free. You've got to get the energy out of the discard. So we do see the evolution on the bench, which at least turns it into a 3-hit KO. Yeah. No, it doesn't even do that, because a 20 bench damage next turn plus 2 120s is 280, so no.
It's all relevant.
Doesn't even make a difference in terms of the Inteleon damage.
I know, this is just awkward. I mean, clearly kicking himself for not using Drizzile on his turn 2. I think it may have even been one of those situations where his turn 1 was so short that he just didn't realize he had the option.
And that is the game. Ross Cawthon will take the match 2-0. Mathieu, unfortunately, gets absolutely nothing going here, because, well, it's just one of those games. Ross goes 2-0, and Ross is now at 2-0. You know, one of the best players we've seen. We're talking about a player that's qualified for every World Championships, made the final at 2 World Championships. One of the names, when you're looking down the pairings, it's one of the names that jumps out. Off to a 2-0 start, and we've got what we wanted, a more unusual deck.
and trust Ross Cawthon to bring that unusual deck. It's just another day in the office for him. I love his choice of deck as well. The Radiant Charizard clearly has that huge potential. You can just read those stats and think, how on earth is this here? How are we getting this card? Radiant Pokemon are seriously pushed to the max because you only get to play one copy and you have to cherry pick one Radiant Pokemon among all others, but the Charizard certainly is a powerful one, and Ross also loves playing one prize archetypes as well. I think it sort of goes back to his roots where you just give yourself more turns in the game to give yourself the access to outplay your opponent. Sometimes